Well, hello guys, and welcome back to another episode on the Dive Saga channel. Normally we talk about scuba travel, diving equipment, photography, all on this channel, but today we're going to do something a little bit different. We are having a special episode talking about how to build a career in scuba diving. And that is because we are in the middle of the pre-release of the second edition of my book, Career in Scuba, How to Become a Dive Instructor and Be Successful. It's a book that I wrote during the pandemic, so already 4 years ago, and I was never super happy with how it looked, and I felt like there was more to it. But of course, as we all know, back in those days we didn't have too many soundboards, and so I went back to it. There's actually 3 extra chapters in here, 30 extra pages, and has in my opinion, a much nicer interior. It's full color this time and actually has photos, colored graphs, some worksheets. I'm actually quite pleased with it. So if you are looking to start a career in scuba diving, or maybe you already have a career but you're looking for a spark to reignite your passion, well then this episode and this book is for you. So the layout of this episode largely follows the layout of the book, but of course the book has more to it. It's 174 pages. That's not something that we can summarize in a 10-minute video. So who am I and why am I the person to have written this book? Well, 15 years ago I became a scuba instructor. I was traveling the world. I knew that I didn't want to do a regular job, but I didn't know what I did want to do. And I tried scuba diving while backpacking in Australia, did my open water in Colombia, etc, etc. The rest is history. But I always knew that whatever it would be that I end up doing, I wanted to do it super well. And that is also the crux of the book. I'm not here to sell you on dreams of never having to work a day in your life. As a scuba instructor, a successful one, you have to work super hard. But that being said, and that's the other side of the coin, there are people lining up to say that you can't make a real living, that you can't make any money in scuba diving, and that's nonsense as well. If you are a subscriber to the YouTube channel here, then you know that I do a lot of dive travel. We organize dive trips. I personally, and that's without showing off, feel like I live a really good and full life. So how do I do that? Well, the book is divided in 3 parts. There is Get Prepared, Get Started, and Get Better. And all are important. I think in terms of getting prepared, you need to have a loose plan of what it is that you want to get out of this. Don't just go on a website right now and book a scuba instructor course hoping for your whole life to magically change for you. You need to take ownership of that decision, and you do that of course in the preparation stage by having a plan. Are you staying in your hometown? Are you going to teach people locally, full-time or part-time? Are you going to move abroad? And if so, which part of the world do you want to move to, and what are the requirements to do that? That's super important. I think too many people think that, oh, I press the book my IDC button on a website and suddenly my life magically changes. And that is completely wrong. You have to do it. Yeah, it is important, of course, to pick an agency. I'm a PADI course director, but you can pick a variety of agencies, and then pick a dive center, or maybe even more important, pick a course director, pick a trainer that you think you can learn from. But even then, it will come down to you. Even when you find somebody that you think works for you, you will have to do the heavy lifting, but don't do it without some preparation. To get started, once you've done your instructor course, that's really, to be honest, still the easy part. Almost anybody can eventually become a scuba instructor. For some people it comes a little easier, for some people it's a little harder. But at the end of the day, That's not the hardest part. The hardest part is once you have your credential and what feels like a finish line, you have to realize that you are only now just starting the race, because there are many scuba instructors out there. Granted, since 2020, there has been a serious culling and dive centers are right now screaming for help, but that's not enough. You do have to be someone that is employable. So it all starts with writing a scuba specific resume. I have another video on this channel. It's a little older, but it really hasn't changed much in what a scuba resume looks like. We can tell from a resume whether you understand the industry you're in or not, because a classic resume stating that you worked at Walgreens when you were 19, that doesn't really tell us much, right? There is a layout to follow when making a scuba specific resume. It also shows us that you care. I have a template in the book here that you can follow, but there is a video, as I said, that I will link below as well. But this is super important, that you take that job hunt seriously. Just like any other industry, you will have to go after it and you will have to do interviews. And once you do land a job, and this is probably, to me anyway, the biggest crux, is that you have to conduct yourself as a business. Yes, you may work for a dive center, which is a business. You may not be self-employed, but the way the scuba industry works is a lot of it comes down to you. You will have expenses, you will have responsibilities, and you will have hopes and dreams. And it is on to you to make sure that that is managed by you. So if you have yearly agency fees, if you have yearly gear maintenance fees, if you have insurance fees, all of which I hope you have because it means you're doing things right, you need to plan for that. So there is another video on this channel, which I will also link below, about how to organize yourself as a business. It doesn't mean that you have to start an LLC. If you're not self-employed, actually, I don't know if I would do that unless you're making ridiculous amounts of money. But there is a nice little graph in here that I think can be very useful about how to run yourself as a business and how to save for a rainy day and how to get a little bit more financially organized. Because the reason that a lot of scuba instructors don't have that much longevity is often because the financial picture doesn't work out well. But at the same time, a lot of people simply look at what their paycheck is going to be at the end of the month and accept that as their reality. While in reality, you have a lot of influence as a scuba instructor over how much you make. So there are some common mistakes that people make, which we also cover in the book. Common things that are typical. For instance, charging too little or too much, being too picky about your first job, or being extremely negligent in your first job. There are many things that you can navigate with a little bit of guidance and actually be a little bit more professional than the average scuba instructor. I'm not saying that scuba instructors out there aren't professional, but if you feel like you aren't generating the income that you are generating, maybe you are doing something wrong. Maybe you are making some of the mistakes that are listed right here in the book. The third part of the book is about how to get better. So once you've done your research, once you've become an instructor, once you've landed your first job, once you've set yourself up financially, how do you then take it to the next level? A lot of that revolves around finding a niche. Being a scuba instructor may feel very niche-y to people who aren't in the scuba industry, but really that's just the baseline. Being a scuba instructor is what we as dive professionals all are, unless we're dive guides, right? But every scuba instructor starts off more or less with the same credentials. So what is it that you are passionate about? Is it conservation? Is it photography? Is it technical diving? Is it adaptive scuba? There are very many ways that you can really hone in on something that you love, and once you love that, it'll be so easy for you to communicate that to your potential students. I find it a million times easier to sell something that I'm not even selling, but that I'm simply talking about because I'm passionate about it. So find the thing in scuba that really gets you going. It could be wreck diving, it could be ice diving. But it's very important to not just stop at the IDC credential, but really dive for yourself, dive for fun, dive for passion, and get good at those specific passions. There are amazing cave instructors out there. There are wonderful underwater photographers out there, all who make a perfectly reasonable living because they found the thing within scuba instruction that really gets them going. Lastly, we also talk about how to become an industry leader, because this industry is constantly looking for people to step up. There is a harrowing statistic that seems horrible when you first hear it, and that is that within 2 years, 80% of scuba instructors do not renew their scuba credential. And if that's true, then that's pretty sad. But if that's true, then that's also an opportunity. That means that if you get past the 2-year mark, you belong to the 20% who have a little bit of industry longevity, and you're now on a launch pad to take that to the next level. Of course, you're not going to become an industry leader within 2 years, but if you manage to stay in this industry, which is a very small industry of people who do have longevity, it is a little bit easier to see a trajectory towards growth. Maybe you become a dive center manager, maybe you become an instructor trainer. There again is a variety of options there at, let's say, the higher regions of credentials. So that is what Career in Scuba is all about. As I said, it's 174 pages and it is right now on pre-sale on Amazon, and I will put a variety of links below where you can find it if you want to pick up a copy. This was a bit different episode than we usually do, but I do think that if you paid some attention and if you are on that path to build a career in scuba diving, there were already a lot of great freebie nuggets in here. But again, if you truly are on the path, maybe look into picking up the book. That's just a blatant sales pitch on my end. Next week I'll be back with a regular episode, but I had to throw this one in because I am excited and yes, a little bit proud about this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.